If you are, for example, a liberal, if you adhere to liberal ideology, then you're going to look at education as a matter of primarily of trying to inculcate certain probably technical skills within the student so that they can be good participatory members
Yeah.
of the larger society
And when you say
and of the
technical, does that implied knowledge or an ability standpoint as opposed to the development of character in those particular people?
Yes, exactly. That's right. Yeah. So at one time, and this again goes back to Plato and Aristotle, there was a notion that education is there to develop character amongst the young, and as Plato in his Republic, set up this elaborate curriculum, in which he would be censoring the poets, presumably the Homeric epics and so forth, to try to build courage in the Guardian class and so forth. And Aristotle had this notion of virtue as being necessary to the functioning of a polis, of one of these city states, such as Athens. And so education was to be an arm of the city. It was supposed to educate, not mass education in the way that we think of it now, but at least those people who had the virtues to be citizens of their particular
Yeah.
cities.
So why would
Um,
the liberal ideology's point of view, why would they be more interested in the technical and less interested in the character development?
Yeah, and that's probably a more recent development because I think if you would go back to somebody like John Locke and some of the early liberals, they would have seen that the building of character was a very significant thing. But as liberalism has developed over the centuries, especially I would say in the last 60 years, just in my lifetime, there has been a focus um, on what we might call the expansive self. There's this notion that somehow our desires are to be released and we are supposed to try to seek our desires as best we can. So
Yeah.
now we hear people telling young people, oh, follow your dreams, as if that's somehow supremely wise advice. I mean, that's all well and good that people are going to pursue their interests, to be sure, but from our generations, previous generations, they would have had no sense that their young people would be following their own dreams because the lines are pretty much set. If your father was a blacksmith, then you would become a blacksmith too.
Yeah.
If your father was a tailor or a cobbler, you would become a tailor or a cobbler as well. But now there's this idea that somehow we want to realize ourselves, we want to authenticate ourselves, and I think that's motivating us. So how do we do that? Well, there are certain techniques that we need to acquire so that we can authenticate ourselves.
Mm.
And so the building of characters is very much less significant.
Mm. So there's almost, I guess, an implication that there's no need for that character development, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I think so, yes, yes. Or maybe even the assumption that there is such a thing as a character, a normative character, to which for which human beings ought to strive. That's come to be seen as a kind of a power play
Mm.
on the part of the powerful to try to get us in
Yeah.
their grips, and that's where a certain kind of a crude sort of Marxism has come down into our present day as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess
Yeah.
part of that is sort of this idea that we are dependent creatures. We are dependent on others. Whereas the liberal might say that I'm independent of others.
Yes.
And so for them to teach me character is to potentially oppress me, right?
I think so. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.